I hope so. Hello and welcome to Give Life. I am your host, meek, mild-mannered Paul Abramson. Broadcasting to you from my multi-trillion-dollar recording studio. And today we're going to talk about personal finance. You cannot always control your income, but you cannot always raise your income, but you can lower your outgo. And so that's part of what I'm going to talk about. Financial stress can cause so many problems, individually, in a marriage, in a family, in all kinds of situations, in a company. Financial stress, it's part of this life. Now, if you've seen other episodes, you know that I contend that the spiritual is what's most important. But financial affects us, just like health. If you have problems with your health, that's going to affect everything about you, right? If you have problems spiritually, it's going to affect everything. And financially, these things have ripple effects into the other areas of life. So I decided to do an episode on financial. This is episode 8, okay? And when we get to 10, I'm going to do a review of the first 10, and I believe I will have made enough of a foundation of the things that I want to say that from 10 I'm going to look forward. My goal has been to make 20 episodes. My goal is to improve your life a little bit. I'm 65. I live here in the Midwest in the United States. I've traveled and lived lots of places in the U.S. I lived in Europe for 3 years, lived in Japan for 5 years. I've been in archaeological digs in multiple countries, paleontological digs, geological. I have volunteered at food banks. I pick up hitchhikers. And I've met and gotten to know a few rich folks also. I'm a multi-hundredaire myself. Oh yeah, not just a hundredaire, a multi-hundredaire. Oh yeah. Now don't start acting all friendly to me now that you know that. Anyway, okay, so financial, and I've had investments in the past. I've been up and down. I've had 3 times in my adult life where I haven't owned a car. And it's like, well, what can I do? How can I make, get life to where, hey, you can't really see that lamp very well, can you? Where's it at? I guess you can't see it. Okay, excuse me. I'm sorry, that's not important. To me, it's important. The little, my neat little studio here, multi-trillion-dollar. I haven't mentioned this for several. You can buy, this was real money. This was real money in Zimbabwe, maybe 15 years ago, $100 trillion bills. It was around that point where they started figuring out that maybe their inflation was out of control. Okay, going out on a limb here. I hear creaking behind me. Anyway, $100 trillion. You can buy these on eBay or other places. I wouldn't pay more than, well, the current prices, they're going to go up as people find out about them. It's like 75 cents or $1 for per $100 trillion bill. So that means like for $15 or $20 US, you should be able to get like 20 of these. And you can give them to people at church or, hey, thanks for being my friend. I'd like to give you some money. Thanks for being my friend. Great for kids, great for grandkids. Okay, and also just for, like I say, if you're like me and you want to be, classy, thanks for being my friend. I'd like to give you some money, something like that, right? Okay, so in episode 10, we're going to do a review. One thing I haven't said in a few episodes, you can change your life. It's going to take within 1 or 2 months. You can change your life if you want to. If you want to, and if you pray. We have gone crazy in the modern world. We're focused so much on materialism, focused on the things that are around us, the things that surround our lives, that we have, I believe, this is my contention, that we've lost track of the most important part of life, and that's the spiritual. This is not life, this is preparation for life. This is a temporary time of learning and testing. Okay, more about that in other episodes. Let's see. Let me go forward. I need to try and make these episodes more efficient, a little bit shorter. I know I wander. I know I go off on tangents. I hope the tangents are interesting. Okay, so the Bible does not say, I'm not going to quote the Bible very much if you're a non-believer and stuff like that, but it's one of the main misquotes of the Bible that people will say, or you'll see it in the movie, money is the root of all evil. No, it isn't. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. Now, that's a very different thing, isn't it? The love of money, when you make something the center of your life. The Bible says that, let's see, I got my 10 commandments here and my 2 commandments. Let me just get them out real quick. I told you this is not going to be religious, didn't I? Did I say that? The 2 commandments: love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. This is Jesus, Rabbi Jesus, 2,000 years ago, summarizing the law and the prophets. Love God with your heart, soul. Here's the 10 commandments up here. I'm a Protestant, but this is the Catholic what's called the Catholic version, Catholic and Lutheran version of the 10 commandments. Okay, right here, and then in Exodus, from Exodus, Moses wrote. And Moses edited, I should say, and then Jesus codified the 2 commandments: love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength, love your neighbor as yourself. Those 2 things. If you decide to love money, and you make that your God, well, that's great in this life, but I'll tell you what. Let's see if I can do my heart beating here. Thump, 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 thump. Thump, thump. Wow, you just can't believe the special effects available in this multi-trillion-dollar production, can you? Thump, 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 thump. And, I mean, once your heart stops beating, the money is gone. Why did you let yourself be fooled so easily? I'll talk about that more in a little bit. But we still have to have money. It is a tool. It is not a goal. It is a tool. Okay? It's an extension of power. My right hand, my right arm, my tongue, are easy extensions of my will. My money also, in a similar way, is an extension of my will. What I can do. I can donate to a college or donate to a church, or I could invest in some technology. Anyway, okay, you get the idea. Okay, let's see. One of our serious problems, I mentioned the materialism, is that atheism has become respectable in the modern world. We're just going insane. The human race is going crazy. Do you believe in something from nothing for no reason? That's what an atheist believes. That's not science. That is not science. I lived in Berkeley, California for 5 years. I'm going to make this brief. But I remember sometimes how angry people would get. I'm also a creationist. I do not believe in evolution. And I have told you in the past, or suggested in the past, please watch at least one creation video, 1 or 2 hours. In 1 or 2 hours, you can get deprogrammed from believing in evolution. Evolution is the foundation. The idea that everything exploded from nothing into something for no reason, and all these laws are here, like the laws for light, for angular momentum, for heat, for all kinds of things. They're just here by accident. Oh my goodness, some people have a lot of faith. And then life evolved all by itself and became more and more complex. So that idea then is one where we do not answer to God. I showed you the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not. Thou shalt not. I'm a truth seeker, but don't go crazy on me. So there's many truth seekers that I've seen in San Francisco and Berkeley, Berkeley, and other cities where they say, oh, I am a truth seeker. Unless the truth has, thou shalt not. Thou shalt not. Ooh, ooh, I don't like that. Ooh. And then they're like, okay, there's got to be other truth somewhere. So, I'm sorry, so I keep interrupting myself. Evolution is the foundation for atheism. Atheism is the foundation for communism. You cannot have communism without first having atheism, because it sets up that the state is the highest, not God. We should remember what Jesus said. You know, they asked him, should you pay taxes to Caesar? Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, but render unto God that which is God's. We are mostly spiritual beings in a temporary physical incarnation. So yeah, money is a part of our life, but that's just temporary. As we have responsibilities in this life for how we conduct ourselves and for supporting, hopefully, reasonable, fair government. It's often not the case. Some people have really forgotten what the word inalienable means. But that, of course, implies that there's a God in inalienable rights. You have to have God in the society. Believers have lost the intellectual high ground. So starting with you, watch a creation video. The one I'm going to suggest, which is one I've suggested before, Kent Hovind's Seminar 3, Dinosaurs and the Bible. There's lots of creation speakers out there, and I'm going to do a episode where I'll talk about that and suggest several that you can have come to your church or your civic meeting, and would be glad to talk to you. When I was in Berkeley, I brought Kent Hovind, who's the man who did the Dinosaurs in the Bible episodes, Seminar 3, Hovind, Hovind, brought him to Berkeley twice. Oh boy, did he love it there. Sparks were flying. I brought a couple other creationists, actually a few other creationists. They had a hard time because you've got to almost be argumentative, which I don't want to be argumentative. But the thing is that a skeptic will ask a really hard question, and the creationists will start answering it. And as soon as the hiding skeptic being a redundant term, the hiding skeptic, as soon as they realize, oh, he's giving a good logical answer, they'll interrupt with another question, because they can't handle that, no, it is logical to fear God and keep his commandments. Okay, love of money. So it's not money that's the problem, it's the love of money. There are rich people in the Bible, there's rich people today who are out there being good stewards of what has been entrusted to them. Okay, but that's not you and me. For 99% of us, we got a budget and we got to save money. As I said before, you cannot always control your income. You can't raise but you can lower your outgo. Okay? The verse for the love of money is the root of all evil. It's 1 Timothy 6:10. 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. I'll tell you, there's a number of ministries out there, a lot of churches and parachurch ministries that have put money first rather than God first. And this verse is for them. I don't want to get into it now, but I know a couple of ministries that have over $500 million each, and they still got their hand out. If you'd like to make a donation or talk to one of our estate specialists, we'd be glad to. They got $500 million. Okay, I don't want to go back. I would not want to be a part of that ministry. Going back to God, knowing thank you so much, brother. We're going to use this for the Lord. No, they're not. It's sitting in some bank account. Right, if it's multiple investments or bank accounts, $500 million there's only two that I know of that are $500 million, but there's a whole number of them that are $100 million. Okay, I'm sorry. I know it sounds like I'm complaining. I'm just saying, you individually, you and I need to be good stewards. People in ministries, in churches need to be good stewards. They're not always doing that, and they're actually is it ECFA or EFCA.org. Evangelical Financial, I'll look it up and put it here. You can look up most ministries that are out there, parachurch ministries, and see where they're at financially. Look at their, not tax returns per se. Well, sometimes you can. Actually, often you can look at their tax returns, come to think of it. But it's either ECFA or EFCA.org. You can look up a ministry and see where they're at, what they're doing. And okay, so financially, just because it seems odd to me that they'd have their hand out looking for more and more and more money, and they're not being a good steward of what they have now. Don't you fear God? Don't you realize what's going to happen to you in the next life? We had $100 million set aside, and then a dictator took over in America. Boy, were we smart. If only that dictator... no, if only you hadn't been so cavalier with the money ahead of time. Okay, I need to stop on my tirade here. Okay, when money becomes a person's goal, it changes the money from being an instrument of trade to one of power, okay? And that gets dangerous. We all have things we're tempted. Some people are tempted to lie. Some people are tempted sexually. Some people, some people have higher or lower temptations in areas, okay? Gambling, for example, right? Or for all different, for lying, for anger. I mean, we're tempted in many different ways. Well, one of them, power, wanting to have power, is just common to the human condition. So I mentioned heartbeats and stuff like that. I got my notes here and I kind of refer to them, but I have a hard time staying there. Pain does not stop at death. Okay, I'm getting to the financial part soon. Some people want to commit suicide, or they'll do a thing where they're, oh, I'll go out in a blaze of, whatever they're doing. Folks, pain doesn't stop at death. This time on earth is not life. We are in a hologram. Are you scientific? Every atom is 99.999% empty. There are, I would contend, strong reasons to logically contend that there are other dimensions around us, and we're being deceived. We're being fooled. Oh, I am successful. I have lots of money. Okay, well, you may be successful, but having lots of money is potentially a different thing. And how did you get the money? Was it honorable, or was it that you stepped on many other people to get it or something? Okay, so, okay, let's see. In Luke chapter 16 in the New Testament, Rabbi Jesus tells a very interesting story of two men. It's called Lazarus and the rich man. The rich man isn't even named because he's unimportant. Now in this life, so what happens, Luke chapter 16, starting in about the verse 30, I think. And this poor man, Lazarus, has open sores. His friends lay him at the gate of this rich man's house, hoping he can get some crumbs from the rich man. The rich man is totally self-absorbed. What he wants, what he can get, his life, how wonderful he is. What a fool. And everything like that. And because he has lots of money, then he equates that with success. And some of the most important people in history have had very little money, but they've had great influence over time. And I won't start naming names, but that's just common down through history. So money is one indicator. It's not the main one, not the only one. The global effete. Those people who think that they're above us and they need to tell us what to do, when they've gone so far astray from normal thinking and normal values. Normal values: love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. 2, love your neighbors yourself. Okay? Now, these two men. So Lazarus dies, the rich man dies, but in the next life, this is not a parable. Rabbi Jesus is telling a story he spoke often in parables. Some of the things he taught us were not parables, they were true story. And so what it appears from the text is these were two real men. The rich man then who was rich in this life, 50 years or 70 years or whatever, he sold his soul for a little bit of money and nice foods and nice clothing and stuff. And it's like, okay, what a fool, what an idiot. Whereas Lazarus suffered in this life, and he goes on to be comforted in the next life. There's a verse in Scripture, and I didn't put it here, but many of those who are first in this life shall be last in the next life, and many of those who are last shall be first. So it is a part of this life that we have difficulties. There's a verse that says, those whom the Lord, actually this is, I think, in the Bible twice, those whom the Lord loves, he chastises, even as a father the son in whom he delights. Those whom the Lord loves, he chastises. I've asked before, I think I mentioned this in episode 1, when I kind of gave a brief overview of what I want to talk about. Who does God love more, Bill Gates or you? That was an example I used, and people often think, wow, Bill Gates has anything. He could fly anywhere he wanted. He could have any kind of... Well, wait a minute. The Bible says, for whom the Lord loves, he chastises. Because we're here to develop character. We're here to develop wisdom and develop character. Wisdom, look above me. Wisdom is the principal thing. That's what the Bible says. Wisdom. We need to develop wisdom. Not get as much money. He who dies, there's a saying, you may not have heard it, he who dies with the most toys wins. I'm going to criticize that saying. He who dies with the most toys wins. What a shallow, empty future some people are thinking of. No, he who dies with the most toys is the biggest fool of them all. We go on from this life to the judgment. We go on to the harvest. And God decides whether he's going to keep you or throw you away. In Lazarus and the rich man, Lazarus is kept. The rich man who spent it all on himself and his comfort and how he could have more all unto him. No, that's the fool. He wasted his life. What an idiot. Okay. So now, it ends with, Luke 16, it ends, the end of the chapter is Luke 30, 31. I think it's like about 8 or 10 verses before that. So Luke 16, about 20 is where it starts, about. The very last verse in Luke 16, 31, so many of the things that Jesus said have multiple embedded meanings. You'll have a single sentence or 3 sentences, and it's got so much truth, so much embedded in it. I want to jump to something else and come back. I have asked you before, my friend, please make the Bible part of you. Please read 2 books of the Bible in the next month or 2. You can change your life, but you've got to make the Word of God part of who you are. One of the books is Proverbs. It has 31 chapters. Each chapter is about a page, but it's very dense. Do not skim it. You need to read each verse. Okay, that's what I would recommend. In 31 days, 31 days, in about a calendar month, you could read all the chapters of Proverbs and then have this start to become part of your life. It doesn't matter. You can be any age, but particularly for young people, make this wisdom part of your life, because often it's things you wouldn't think of, particularly if you're a young person. I'm sorry to be picking on young people, but it's like we need wisdom, and often that comes from our elders. It comes from people who have experienced things before us. You can learn a lot by listening, by asking questions. Thank the Lord, I, as a young person, learned how to ask questions. Part of that was when I was in Japan, and I was a writer for a magazine, and then became an editor. And I've mentioned this before, and I was a writer for a part-time for a government newspaper, and I learned how to ask questions. And what's your opinion? If I may ask you, what do you think about this? And if you ask respectfully, there's a lot you can learn. And if you're young person, I'll tell you what young people like to do, and that's ask their peers. That's less threatening than asking this old guy who's going to go, well, let me tell you, son, my experience, here's what you should do. Okay, find somebody else. Excuse me, listen to him, that's fine. Oh, gee, if I didn't have to go, I'm sorry, I just got my running shoes on, I got to hit it. But, find some people who are wanting to share wisdom with you. Do you have an aunt? Do you have, and there's actually so many older people I've asked questions of, and then it's like they got nothing inside. They got, anyway, but look around. Find those people around you. Okay, they're out there. The last verse of Luke 16:31. And he said to them, if they hear not Moses and the prophets, then they will not be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. Because the rich man is asking, send someone back to tell my brothers about this horrible place. And the answer is, you've got the Bible. You've got Bibles. Why don't you read it? I'm sorry, that's the answer. You've got the same opportunity, and actually in the modern world around us, Bibles are cheap. You can get one at a thrift store for $1 or less. Sometimes they'll give it to you for free. We have the least excuse of all the people in history to learn God's Word, to at least even give it a chance. People will go off into meditation, they'll light some incense, and I think the Eastern religions must have the truth. Okay. There is truth there. There can be truth there. I believe there's wisdom from around the world. I've said that before with up here. Okay, now. If they hear not Moses and the prophets. Creation. How does the Bible start? It is so important to God that he starts with in the beginning. Okay? In the beginning. God created the heaven and the earth, and the heaven later was split into three heavens above us, as it's delineated. Anyway, and it is so important to Satan. That's exactly where he's attacking the modern church. Christians and Jews who are reverent, who are observant, are being hit hard with the idea that, Genesis is allegorical, it's not true. Yes, it is. An hour or two is all you need to find out that creation is an excellent theory. Okay, so now I'm moving towards finance. I'm getting there. Luke 12:48b. For to whomsoever much is given, of him much shall be required. Let me read that again. It's the middle of the verse, Luke 12:48b. For to whomsoever much is given, of him much shall be required. I started this series not because someone told me to, But excuse me, I'm sorry for raising my voice. I'm sorry for saying it that way. Let me explain what I mean. There are churches where people like to say, oh, the Lord told me to do this, the Lord told me to do that. If you believe God is speaking to you personally more than he speaks to Elijah or to Isaiah or to Peter or Paul, there's something wrong with you, okay? Let me tell you why Luke wrote the Gospel of Luke. Hold on here, just a moment here. I can't believe this says, this particular Bible has a lot of references in it. The whole back third of the Bible, it's called the Thompson Chain reference. And Luke tells us why he wrote the Gospel of Luke. Let me find the verse here. Here it is, verse 3. Luke 1:3. Not some big lightning flash, not some big voice from the sky. Here is why Luke wrote the Gospel of Luke. Luke 1:3. It seemed good to me, having had a perfect understanding of these things, to write them down. It seemed like a good idea. Isn't that good enough for you? Are you a logical person? Use your ability to think. Use your ability to do. Don't sit there, oh, I was waiting on the Lord, waiting on the Lord. He never spoke to me. Maybe he doesn't need to. Maybe you already know the things you need to be doing. Okay, I'm enough hammering. I need to stop. It is the Bible that is the standard, not some pastor, priest, or rabbi that tend to go off balance. That's true in our modern churches. It was true 2,000 years ago. It was true 3,000 years ago. Rabbi Jesus, when Jesus was choosing his disciples, he did not, and he also was not officially trained as, but anyway, excuse me, he was a carpenter's son. He grew up, he was a carpenter. He did not choose a single trained rabbi to be among his core disciples. He chose teachable men, 12 teachable men, and then after that, there were many women also who followed, of course, and at one point he had 70 core people who, but it was the 12, of course, 12 disciples who were the main focus, and then even among them like 3. But it is the Bible that's the standard. Read Proverbs, read the Gospel. Oh, excuse me, I said read Proverbs. I forgot to mention John. 2 books of the Bible. Read Proverbs, read John. Please. John is 21 chapters. It's the 4th book of the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. 21 short chapters. You can read that in the next month or month and a half. You can read that. Please do that. Or listen to it in the car while you're commuting to it, or when you're on the bus or something. Okay. Now, in the last session, in episode 7, I was talking about computer security, but one of the things I brought up was how easily we can be deceived. Us humans, let's see, I got a company logo on this. I don't think you can read it. That's fine. I'm supposed to be very careful about advertising and stuff. So please, if you see company names, it's not intentional. It's examples, okay? Anyway, in my videos. Now I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, yeah. I mentioned we can be deceived. There are many conservatives who fell for the whole QAnon stuff. I think they've come out of it by now, but there's still some people who are doing the QAnon stuff. We are human beings. We are susceptible to being deceived. In the Garden of Eden, Genesis chapter 3, the serpent deceives, and Adam and Eve follow the deception, okay? For liberals, I pointed out that for like 30 years, they were believing that a new ice age was coming in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I remember it. I'm old enough. I remember that. And it's just seeing the alarmists go off and stuff. Okay, so now, concerning money and following money, bulls, okay? I have been to the bullfights before. It was in Mexico City. They have them in Europe also, in Spain. I believe there's a few other countries with Spanish traditions that have bullfighting. The bull is a powerful, smart animal, but he's never been there before. He has never been in the ring. He's at the peak of his strength. He's using his power, but it keeps getting spent. Ole, ole, ole. When I was in Mexico City watching the bullfights, and you see the matadors, and they're successively tricking the animal, and it's spending its strength, chasing the red cape, the pink cape of the red cape, chasing it, ole, ole, and finally it ends in the death of the bull, and it has chased after this illusion of actually hitting something. It's using all its power. This is an animal that's over 1,000 pounds, over a half a ton. Let's see, 1,000 pounds, how many kilograms? 600 kilograms, something like that. I mean, this is a heavy, heavy animal, and very dangerous for a human. You get hit with these horns, you got a problem. Okay, so now, and this is then for humans, for us, just like the bull, just like the bulls, we can be deceived. Okay? Ole! Ole! You like my examples? I hope so. Ole! Maybe you don't like my examples. Can you see this? Oh, here, let me show it over here. Dollar bills. It's got lots of money on it. Oh. I need to get some starch, cut these out and iron them and see what I can get at the store. Anyway, folks, when we focus on money, you got to have it. Yes, gots to have money. But don't make that your goal in life. Pray, Lord, help me. And what you want is often very different from what you need. Oh, I need this, I need that. I remember when I worked for a particular large company, and I was like 10 years older than many of the guys there, and they're spending all their money on stupid stuff for their cars. Stupid stuff, a stupid shift knob, a stupid car stereo. Can you believe some of these kids, the male may be in his 20s, but if he's spending $1,000 on a car stereo and it takes up half the trunk and he's bothering his neighbors, why would, by the loud noises? Look at me, I'm not a man yet, but I can make loud noises. Why would someone want to advertise that he's stupid and how he spends his money? $800,000? Look in the stores, go to the electronic stores. You'll see these car stereos and it has a big thing in the trunk. It takes a lot of electricity and it's like, okay. Why would someone want to advertise that they're stupid in how they spend their money? It's hard to believe. Okay, I was at, go to thrift. So I want to talk about, you can't always increase your income, but you can decrease your outgo. I'm going to encourage you to go to thrift stores. Most of my clothes, my Hawaiian shirts I've been wearing, most of my clothing except for underwear, socks, and belts, things like that. Well, no, belts too I've gotten at thrift stores. It's just that often a man will wear a belt till it's worn out. But my suits, I have some excellent 100% wool suits. Beautiful suits. The best places to buy suits, I'm sorry I'm smiling, if you think about it, is Arizona and Florida. For men's suits. Arizona and Florida. And that's also true for elegant dresses, for women's elegant dresses. If you have some reason to go down to Florida or to Arizona, now here's the reason why. Retirees, snowbirds, they'll go down there, and then if they've moved down there and they pass away, well, then the things get donated often to the thrift stores, and then they put it out. Okay, so I'm sorry, but if you think about it logically, that makes sense, doesn't it? I'll tell you, men's suits for under $10 and it's quality. You just start trying on jackets. Make sure the shoulders and the arm length is right. The pants, hemming the pants is a piece of cake. That's $10, $15 or something, okay? But if the jacket fits you and the arms are the right length, make sure they're not too short. I mean, I'm a big guy, and so I have to make sure the shoulders and there's enough room and stuff. I have some excellent suits and they cost me nothing. My advice to you is don't go to the expensive stores and pay $500 or $800 for a suit. Cha-ching. Why? Please don't do that. Let me see, did I cover up the numbers on this? Please don't do that. Oh, I put it on my card so it'll pay for it for the next 15 years of my life. No, please don't do that. Instead, you could reduce your outgo, okay? Now, when I travel quite a bit. Here's another thing I've learned. I remember in Grand Rapids, I was there for probably a month or so. This was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I asked the guys from the city, hey, where's the rich parts of town? Where do the rich people live? And then I went to the thrift stores in that area. Now, think about this. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because if somebody rich, has their used clothes and they're going to give it someone, they're not driving to the poor part of town and donating their clothes there. I wouldn't want to. So they're going to the thrift store that's in their neighborhood, aren't they? You're going to get a much better deal, much better clothes, much better appliances, much better electronics from the rich people who are just who are giving their stuff to that local thrift store. And so look for the rich parts of town, or is there a suburb near you? That's the thrift store you want to go to. Now, this makes sense what someone says. I kind of had to learn it over time. It's like you go to different cities and it's like you got one place and it's like, gee, there's a bunch of junk, but then it's the poorer part of town. You go to the richer part of town, it's like, oh my God, for less money, often because they got to move the stuff. They got to get out. So if you're poor folk like me, go to the rich part of town. You can have, like I said, I have nice things, and much of it is I got really inexpensively. Okay. Oh, I was at a conference in Virginia, and I'd forgotten to bring a coffee mug with me. Okay, I like to have coffee mug at a conference or whatever. It has a closing top and stuff, rather than a styrofoam cup. My friend who I was traveling with, he drove a BMW. That's fine. He probably still does. I haven't seen him in a few years. Anyway, he had never been to a thrift store before. So I said, let's go. Come on. I'll buy you a shirt of some kind. So I bought him a polo shirt that was like made him a coach. I don't remember. It was a Little League football coach or Little League baseball or something like that. Got him a coach. I got myself a lacrosse coach shirt. And $3 each, something like that. And I found a coffee mug. It wasn't this one, but I found a coffee mug that looked right. It had a ceiling top. I opened it up. It had coffee in it. It must have just come in. You know what I mean? But it was a coffee mug. It's sealed. The top closed up. Click, click. And it had coffee in it. And so I told my friend, now, and I need to be more careful sometimes, because he had never been to a thrift store before, okay? I said, don't tell him up front because they'll charge me extra. And I was obviously joking. Okay, I'm joking. I'm washing the cup before I use it, okay? I'm not. Ooh, they sure put a lot of sugar in this coffee. Okay, I'm not doing that. No, I'm washing the cup. Okay, but anyway, let's see. Talked about my suits. If you can save $500 or $300 on a quality shirts, quality suits, and there's occasions, even when if you don't usually wear a suit, where you need a formal wear, a nice shirt, a nice slacks and things, good pair of formal shoes, maybe a couple times a year or something. We'll buy them for $10 rather than $80. Why not? And all of this money, when you're buying stuff at stores, that's all after-tax money. In other words, you got to let's say you buy an $800 suit for $20. Okay, you've now saved $780. Let's round it down. Let's say you've saved $700. How much money would you have to make to buy a $700 or $800 suit? You've got to make over $1,000 or $1,100, because then taxes are going to be pulled out, right? Do you see what I'm saying? This has ripple effects in your budget. And as I said at the very beginning, if you have financial a burden on top of you, my friends, this can be a heavy weight. I'm a guy who's been deeply in debt before. I'm a guy I've had investments. I've been rich. I've been poor. There's a verse where St. Paul. Here, I'll put it on the screen. I don't remember it. I've learned to be content, whether in abundance or in want. I don't remember the exact words, but here, I'll put it on the screen in front of me here. But I've been that way, where I've had a lot, where I've had thousands of dollars, not sloshing around, but I've been above, and I can do investments. I've also had times where it sure would be nice to have a $5 bill. I tell you, I told you I've had 3 times in my adult life, like 5 years each, where I did not own a car. So I've been up and down in life. That's the way life is. Where is your trust, in money, or is your trust in the Lord? Your trust needs to be in the Lord. That's what I think. Okay, now, let's see. Spiritual part of life is most important. Okay, I want to talk briefly about college. This is about personal finance, but investing in yourself. Education is investing in yourself. When I was 17 or 18 in high school in Seattle, I took the SAT test. I did really well. I applied at 2 colleges. One of them was Princeton. I didn't go, but I was accepted at Princeton. I've often thought of that over the years. But I had no money. My family didn't have any money, stuff like that. My mother, whatever, didn't have any money. I would have had to borrow everything to try to go to Princeton, but I was accepted. Anyway, this is a long time ago. And instead, and I was accepted at the other institution also. I decided instead to go in the Army for 3 years, which I did. I went to Germany as a radio operator. If you go into the military, if you're a mid-teenager or a young person, or you have children who are, please don't automatically assume college, particularly not right after high school. I really believe they need a year of doing something else, a gap that lets them be educated in life rather than all this book learning. Those who can't do, teach. Those who can't teach, teach gym. Those who can't teach gym become evolutionary professors in universities. Ooh, hey, that's a low blow. What kind of saying is that? Where did he get that from? Some of these people have no practical experience, and yet they are the professor, the instructor, but they got no common sense. They're just way out there in left field. Personal opinion. When someone's 18 years old, the world is in front of you. Talk to a few union people. Talk to someone from a carpenter's union or steam fitters union or electrical or plumbing. What's it like? Or I did a tour one time of a railroad, and railroad engineers, train engineers make some pretty good money. Oh my goodness. A lot of responsibility, but they make really good dough. There's some good jobs out there that do not require going $50,000 or $100,000 into debt with college. Consider it. Consider going into the Peace Corps. That's out there. Consider teaching English for a year. I've done that. I've taught English when I was in Japan. I was invited to go to Taiwan. I was invited to go to Reunion, which is an island near Madagascar off of Africa. And I didn't visit there. I thought about it. I was invited. I met a German woman who I could have stayed at her place if I had gone to Reunion. And it's not a big... there's a lot of places in the world where they want teachers of English, of French, of German, of Russian, of Chinese. Chinese has become a very important language. If you're a native Chinese speaker, you could go out somewhere in the world and teach Chinese. You're going to need to learn a little bit of English, if you're watching this video, you must know some English, but just for international travel. I'm not saying that as in a prejudiced way. It's just that that's the language, lingua franca. The lingua franca of the world is knowing a little bit. But Chinese has become very important. If you're a native Chinese speaker, Japanese, major languages in the world, you could teach your language as an 18 or 20-year-old. You could teach your language and travel for a year and get paid for it. It's not a bad life. I've taught part-time and full-time in things I've done. And anyway, a Reunion, I never went there, but I thought about it. Here's what she told me. She was a German woman, white skin, but she was so dark. She was so dark, and what she told me, this is their life. Now, I'm a Christian, okay, is they'd teach classes early in the morning, and then they'd go out and lay on the beach and drink beer and have a nice day, and then teach more classes in the evening. So this is their life. This is the life of, it can be a life of people who are expats and out there living or working in another country teaching English or something. When I was in Japan, for example, I need to stop talking about this. When I was in Japan, I knew people from everywhere, from South Africa, from Europe, from the Philippines, from Thailand. One of the things we had in common is we were foreigners. We were all from all these different countries, and you can learn so much about the world by meeting these people. I urge you to consider, rather than going straight from high school into college, travel for a year. The best books by far, I'm going to actually put this in big letters here, Lonely Planet. Lonely Planet. This is the best series. The best series. They have books for regions of the world. They have books for countries. If you're going to a particular country, Namibia, it's in Southwest Africa, just northwest of the country of South Africa. Yeah, I'd like to go to Namibia. It looks like a beautiful country. It's got all these hundreds of miles of pristine beaches on one side. Then topographically it rises, and I think the average elevation is 3,000, 4,000 feet. So we're talking over 1,000 meters high. And so it's actually it's a desert country, but very civilized, this is my impression of it. I watch documentaries and I read books. I have one friend from Namibia, so I could go there probably and stay with him and find out what's going on. Anyway, but there's so many countries. Thailand. I was on a Lonely Planet. I know I'm diverging here, and I know I do that. I hope these episodes are interesting. I was in Thailand, and I'm on an overnight bus from Bangkok to Chiang Mai, which is in north. Bangkok, of course, is the capital of Thailand. Overnight bus, you're kind of half sleeping on the bus. Get your dinner before you get on the bus. Get your dinner and have lots of stuff, a couple of liters of stuff to drink on the bus. So many people get on the bus, overnight bus, because they're expecting them to stop, and they'll have bathroom breaks, but no, get your dinner before, and a lot of water or whatever to drink anyway before you get on the bus. If you're in some poor country, I've been on some interesting bus trips, and I'm often the only American on trips. I was in one, okay, I mentioned the Thailand one, hold that thought. I think I was in Malaysia, and we were watching this movie, and it had like 3 layers of subtitles on the bottom. The bottom half of the screen, it was a Chinese movie, and the bottom half of the screen is 3 layers of subtitles. And I don't remember now if any of the 3 were English or not. It may have been English in one of them, but just the different languages that people speak. And we're watching the movie. That's what you're doing. It's in the evening on the bus, and they had TVs and stuff. Okay, Thailand. So we're getting into Chiang Mai, and I'm reading The Lonely Planet because that is your guide. It is head and shoulders above any other series that I know of. There may be individual ones for individual countries that are as good as The Lonely Planet, but I'll tell you, when they say this is what happens, that what happened. They tell you about, say in Singapore, in Singapore, this youth hostel is like this, that one is the cheapest, this one is the cleanest, that one is for the party people, this one is for, it's just, bam, it's like spot on. It is exactly right. Anyway, so I'm reading about Chiang Mai as we're driving into the city, and the bus pulls into this giant gravel parking lot, and there's all these people in pickup trucks out there beckoning us to come to them. If there are other Americans, I don't remember. It's mostly Europeans when I've traveled often in Asia. And everyone getting tense. What's going on here? What's happening? Chiang Mai is a drug center. Okay, it has that reputation. So you need to be aware of who's around you, what's around you. And there's all these, so we're not in the city, we're outside the city. But I'm reading The Lonely Planet. And so I'm able to see, this is a different book, I'm able to see, here's what they do. They drop you off outside of town. You get on one of these trucks. They're going to take you to their youth hostel in Chiang Mai. And they have pictures. They have a picture album usually, and to show you, this is our youth hostel. It is clean. It is good. You come. And so they, so that's the way to get into the city. Now, you don't have to stay at that particular youth hostel. You don't have to buy their tours. They want you to stay there. They want you to have tours. You're not obligated, but you got to get into the city somehow. So you all pile in if you've met and made friends with the people around you, the people in the seats across from you, well, then you, as a small group or whatever, with Danish or Germans or French or Israelis or wherever the people are from, and then you head on into town. And it was so much fun heading into Chiang Mai. You're hanging on, and you're in this open air pickup truck with a rail up there and straps, and hanging on for dear life. There's seatbelt. What's a seatbelt? What is a seatbelt? Anyway, you're hanging on for dear life, and you're seeing these people on scooters. And anyway, okay, I'm getting into too much detail here, but here's what happened. Is we looked at my particular group. We looked at that particular youth hostel, and they were real pushy on wanting to sell us tours and stuff. We said, well, we'd like to walk around, and maybe we'll come back, or we'd like to think about it. And so we left, and here's this woman driving around in her pickup, and she's not part of the main ones. Probably they pay a certain fee to be able to have their pickup truck at the spot, and she's looking for guys like us, people like us who have left it. I shouldn't be telling you this whole story. Anyway, she had a big book with all these different people who had written experiences of their time at her and her husband's youth hostel. Well, I'm with like Danish people and Germans and stuff, and so we're not looking for English. We're looking, so we look, and here's a Danish woman, or what, Danish man or whatever, and the Danish person, then they can tell native Danish, right, from someone who tried to fake it. Oh, this looks like it could be. Then we find one in French or whatever. Yeah, the food is good. It's reasonable prices. They don't try to sell you stuff all the time. They have a kitchen, the coffee. It's just a good place. So we follow her and go to her. That's where we stayed then while we were in Chiang Mai. Okay, I'm telling you too many details. The idea of traveling, you need to be very careful. If you're a single woman, do not travel alone. Do not travel alone. You may be drugged. I don't want to talk about this, but just to mention it, human trafficking is real. People have disappeared. People have disappeared. Where did they go? A young woman, a pretty young woman. You need to have, if you're a woman, you do not, this is not like America, this is not like Western Europe. You're worth a lot of money. If you're a pretty young woman, you could be worth $500,000 or $1 million. Don't travel alone. I'm sorry to be saying it like this, but there's I need to do one on documentaries. I need to do one of these episodes on documentaries. There's a particular documentary that came out several years ago called Nefarious. I mentioned this in episode 1. Nefarious, about women from Eastern Europe being taken into slavery and sold for sex. And then once, for several years or a few years, they're used for sex. And then they're killed, thrown away. Please forgive me. Please forgive me for saying this. It happens to men too, young man. It can happen. They'll take them. There's homosexuals out there who want want sexual property of others. So it doesn't matter whether it's a woman or women are more common, or children. Did you know in China there's an average of 2,700 people a day that go missing in China? Remember, it's atheists. You got evolution. Evolution is the foundation for atheism. Atheism is the belief we don't answer to God. I make the rules. The golden rule, he who has the gold makes the rules. Evolution then is a foundation. It has to be there. The belief in it for atheism. Atheism for communism. And once you get that far steeped into these belief systems, I mean, why not kidnap someone? Why not get what you want? Why not get into human trafficking trade? You can make a lot of money. I'm sorry, please forgive me, but it's like, in China, it's like 2,700 people per day, 2,700. Some days it may be 3,000, 3,400. Some days maybe 2,200, but it's thousands of people. Let me see if I can find one of these videos. This van pulls up. Let me see if I can find this short. There's lots of them out there. You won't see this in the Western media, but because they sanitize things and they only tell you they got such a the Western media, the liberal mainstream media has such an agenda to persuade people of certain things rather than just giving people information. A young woman will be on her cell phone, completely oblivious to what's going on around her. She's on her phone, okay? Completely oblivious to what's going on around her. And she's crossing the street. Van pulls up, door opens, they grab her. She's screaming, door closes, gone.
I gave her some water. That's nice of me. I told you, she's employed by my family. Do you hear me? You say what you need to say and shut your mouth for things you shouldn't. Do you hear me? You shut up.
I need to stop talking about this. If you're a Western woman, you have blonde hair, you're pretty, would you please realize you're in danger? You could be at some club one night and these three guys are buying you free drinks and you're getting tired and maybe here, why don't you have another drink? Maybe you'll feel better. Yeah, right, each one is drugged a little bit more than the last one. Don't you understand? Okay, I'm sorry. I've just known people that have gone missing. I've known people in Asia particularly, but it can happen in Europe, it can happen anywhere in the world. I need to stop talking about this. Nefarious. There is a documentary called Nefarious. Before you travel overseas, watch. But travel. Do a little bit of traveling if you can. Preferably with a couple or a few other people as a small group. I've gone where I'm staying at a youth hostel, say I'm going south, they're going north, and we'll meet in the evening and be talking, and then I'm giving them advice, they're giving me advice on things to see and stuff. And I'll tell you, it's an inexpensive way to go. It's not as safe as the hermetically sealed tour bus. Yes, we saw the Eiffel Tower. Yes, we saw the Leaning Tower of Pizza from within our air-conditioned bus. We saw all these different things. Nah, get out there. Meet some Italians, meet some French, meet some Thai people, meet some Malaysian people. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to... Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Okay, I need to stop this. College is not the only thing. Find out what's going on. I'm going to give you an example of 3 different people financially here to listen to, but okay. Let's see. I need to get on to... Good, page 3. We're down to page 3. Okay. Debt. You know what happens to someone when they start going to college? If you haven't been to college for a while, you haven't seen it, is you get all these credit card applications. Lots of credit cards. These are all credit cards? I guess so. They're all former credit cards. Do I have things covered up on them? Okay, I guess I better. Okay, so anyway, they'll start getting all these to put them into debt, to start weighing on them, because if the person, as they're going to graduate, now they're going to be deeply into debt and stuff. I was talking to 3, actually, let me hit doctors real quick. I was at a health fair in my community. Call your city or go down to City Hall or the county. Do they have a free health clinic once a year? Often they do, but you wouldn't know about it unless you asked. Go down to City Hall or the county and say, do they ever have a free thing for this, or is there some kind of conference coming to town I could go to learn about such and such or whatever? And oh yeah, 2 months from now we'll be having such and such. Well, anyway, I was at one of these free health clinics. They check your blood pressure, they check your blood sugar, they do different tests, and it's all free. Hey, that's a lot better than paying $100 to a doctor, isn't it? Or 200 or something. I mean, if you can find out about yourself, just something general and stuff. Anyway, there was the 3 young men at a particular table, and they were all doctors. They were in residency, so they had graduated. Like I said, I've learned how to ask questions in life, to ask questions and no one was around. I mean, people around, but nobody's bothering them. So being good at making a nuisance of myself, I go and I say, excuse me, gentlemen, can I ask you something? I get down kind of on one knee, and I'm not proposing to them, but I'm just at their level because they're seated at this table. And I said, you've all been to medical school, you're in your residency now. If I may ask, and I'm not trying to get too personal, but how much debt, what does it cost to go to medical school these days? And all 3 of these men had $500,000 to $750,000 in debt. See my lights, there's something flashing there. I don't know why it's flashing. Okay, hopefully it's okay. Maybe I'm just got this camera going now. Anyway, let's change how we make doctors. I've been saying this for years. Nobody is interested in what I have to say. Let's change how we make doctors. Okay, so now you just had a stroke, you fell off a ladder, you had a heart attack, or you don't know what's wrong. Something's wrong. You call 911, and they send out in this ambulance or EMT team, and it's got 2 doctors in it, one who has 10 years experience, the other has 25 years experience. Is that what happens? No, it isn't. Sorry for raising my voice. Is it still flashing? It is. I wonder why. Might be full. This camera is an older camera. Okay. Anyway, you don't need to know that. Let's see. They send out 2 EMTs, guys who have 9 months of training, maybe 2 years, maybe 6 months. Each state is different. Someone who has a good driving record and has been trained how to give shots to someone in an emergency. They're on the phone with a hospital, and they got to keep you alive for the next 20 minutes. This 20 or 30 minutes or 10 minutes from when they respond and they get to you, they got to keep you alive, try to reduce the pain, move you safely. Let's say it was a motorcycle accident, keep you from moving your necks, put a neck brace on and everything else, or whatever it is, or give you a shot to, or nitroglycerin or something if you had a heart attack or something. And so if you can train someone, and that's who can be trusted medically for keeping you alive. I'm going to jump to a different example. I was in the military. Medics, I can't remember how many months of training. It's 6 months of training, and then they're out. They could be sent out on a battlefield. And here's a guy with a gaping wound in him, and they got to keep this person alive, he or she. They got to keep this person alive till they can get him back to the field hospital. Okay? So you can learn a lot in half a year or 6 months, 9 months, or whatever the program is in your state. Why don't we change how we make doctors? An EMT is kind of like a firefighter in that you're waiting to be called. So you could be studying. You could have your books and be studying and learning more medicine. Why don't we instead of like I told you about these 3 doctors at this clinic, and now they got $500,000. They don't. This is $500,000 to $750,000 in debt. That they're now having to service every month. What is that? If that was a mortgage, how high is your mortgage? Here, I'll actually look it up and put it on the screen here. If you had a house that was $750,000, what would your payments be every month at a low interest rate? I mean, it's a lot of money. And this is before you own a car. This is before you buy any food, which sometimes you're going to get hungry, right? And you've got to have you've got to factor this into every bill, every patient you see for the next few years. Why not instead, if we have medic, just as an idea, medic 1, 2, 3, and then doctor 1, 2, 3, narcotics. You see what I'm saying? There's different levels of responsibility. Maybe they can't prescribe certain medications until they become a doctor 2nd class, something like that. And then you reach physician. So maybe medic 1, 2, 3, bam, 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 and then doctor 1, 2, 3. What kind of small towns often have 0 medical facilities because the cost to entry is so high? You got to drive a half hour or an hour to get to a big establishment. If we changed how we made doctors, what if you could have you got a doctor 1, lowest class of doctor, and then a medic 2, and that's who staffs this clinic in this town. And so you swallow something wrong. Well, swallow, you got to do the Heimlich maneuver, okay? But you got bleeding or something like this. You got to stop the bleeding. The airway, clear the airway. You give artificial, but you can get to someone 5 minutes away. The way we're making doctors is the worst way possible on a financial level. Plumbing. Do you have to spend 5 years being a plumber or a cabinet maker, a carpenter, or an electrician? No, you start as an apprentice and then you learn more. And in medical, we're doing that now already. It's not called that, but you've got people. Let's see, the 45 sure is hitting the light a lot. I'm sorry about that. I got a fan running, even though it's a multi-trillion-dollar studio. It's getting kind of warm in here today, and so I have a fan on. I'm sorry for the added background noise. Okay, I'm telling you things you don't need to know. Okay, so for doctors, why not make a progression where they can pass tests and learn and become more? You can do that there's so many fields. Bookkeeping, learning how to be a bookkeeper. You can learn that in months. Less than a year, you could be a bookkeeper. I met a young woman working at a convenience store. I was doing a delivery type job, and so I saw her 3 times a week. And she was taking a course in how to give shots. Now, it wasn't for being a nurse, but it was medically related. Now, here's the problem with taking a course in that. Oh, I hate needles. I hate it. But myself, I hate it. But they practice on each other. Ow, ow. So you better do a good job, because 10 minutes later, now I'm going to give you your shot. Okay, I'm sorry I laugh like that sometimes. But she was taking this course, and so this is going to put her at a much better lifestyle. And it was only a few months program. When you get out of high school, please look at your options. Go to a career fair. Your state has them. Your city probably has them. Watch videos on YouTube. There was a woman who built a house watching YouTube videos. Have you heard about that? I'll look this up. There was actually a woman who, you can learn plumbing, you can learn electrical, you can learn all kinds of woodworking, you can learn all kinds of stuff, how to pour concrete. I'll tell you, there's a lot of stuff out there that's for free. And we should have, rather than medical school or even the regular college degrees, the big universities, why are so many people coming out with $50,000 or $100,000 in debt when you could have had videotaped classes? Anyway, it seems to me that so many of the people in academia don't care that much about young people, about the future of our country, not just my country, but if they're saddling with so much debt and that's the only ticket in. It's because they've lost track of the two commandments. Love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbors yourself. Part of America falling from Judeo-Christian values is part of falling into money. And then that takes so many things. You know, if you bought any textbooks recently, even the electronic copies, it's like they have an expiration date. And you got to pay this certain amount of money for this book that's not even a book often. It's just... It's on your phone or on your computer, and then it's gone. Okay. Just pray about it. Pray about it. I tell you what, even if you're an atheist, this is a huge life decision. Why don't you pray about it anyway? Okay. Maybe you don't like my sense of humor. I live in a blue-collar neighborhood. I'll just hit this quickly. Thursday and Friday afternoons, it is so tragic to see people buying lottery tickets. They just got their paycheck. Yeah, give me 2 of those $5 this kind. Oh, and I want one of those $10 ones of this kind here and stuff like that. Oh, wait, I want 3 of such and such. And they'll spend $50 or $100 of their paycheck on lottery tickets. Please don't do that, folks. It's against you. Statistically, it's against you. And watch. There's videos on this online. Learn from others. Learn from the mistakes of others. And then watch 1 or 2 of the videos about people who have won the lottery and then are broke a year later or 6 months later. All these, let's say somebody wins $1 million, and then all these relatives come around and, oh, hey, Jim, man, you won the lottery. That's great. You've always been my favorite. Did I tell you that? Hey, can I borrow 10 grand or can I borrow 50 grand? Oh, now you're going to get stingy on me, huh? Anyway, they're broke within half a year or a year. So many of the people who win the lottery, it's like you got this carrot. I mentioned the bull, with the thing, ole. So we have this in front of us, the money. Oh, that's going to be the solution to my problems. No, if you don't have money, then yeah, you've got a lot of problems. But having lots of money is not the solution. It actually can make your problems much more expensive. Okay, so now government auctions. Okay, I mentioned thrift stores and buying suits and buying stuff. I go to auctions sometimes. Have cash. Also, very, very important. Decide ahead of time how high you're going to go if you're going to bid on something. I got lots of examples I can tell you where people get swept up in the bidding, and they'll start bidding. I bought my house at an auction. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I got to remember that. Okay, I was at this particular government auction, seized things, and there was a Volkswagen Beetle. And it was this is 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whenever it was. Volkswagen Beetle. It wasn't a new car, but ring. I like those Volkswagen Beetles. I've never owned one, but I'd like to have one sometime. Anyway, I never will. But anyway, air-cooled engine. It's a lot of fun. Ring. The engine sound, I'm sorry. Anyway, okay. There happened to be one in the Sunday paper. So it's a Saturday morning, I get the Saturday edition Sunday paper. Someone is selling a similar model to one that's going to be at this government auction. If I recall, it was $1,600 or $1,700. Okay, this is a long time ago. Prices are much higher now. Okay, and so I had that in my mind. And if you buy it from someone in the paper, you can probably talk them down by 100 or 200 or something like that. Plus, you can test drive the car. You can drive it around. You can usually take it to a mechanic, have the mechanic look at it. Okay, is this good and stuff? Okay, yeah, I would like to buy this car. Go to the bank or the credit union together. Do the transaction there where they are signing over the title. There's no liens on the title. Make sure there's no liens. Make sure there's no credit union or bank in the middle. Do the financial transaction within the bank, within the credit union. That's safer for you, safer for them. If either one person is dishonest, which can happen, you don't want to lose $1,800 or something like that. Anyway, so at this government auction, I'm standing in back with these other skeptical people because these people have come to this auction and the bidding is kind of crazy. Anyway, they bring out this Volkswagen Bug, ring, and have it up there. You can't drive it. You can look at it, but you're not touching it. You're not opening it. You're not looking at the interior, how frayed is the fabric and everything like that. And they start bidding it like whatever it was, and they're going up by $50 increments. Well, and now remember, there's one in the newspaper advertised by a private party, this like $1,600, let's say. Well, this one here, these people are all up there. I'll bid $1,200, $1,300, $1,300, $1,350, $1,400. Well, they're up to $1,600, $1,700 in no time. But other people are bidding, and people get wrapped up in it. Where, well, he thinks it's worth $1,800. I'm going to go $1,850. I want this car. I'm going to get this car. People kind of lose their heads at auctions. Don't do that. Think ahead of time. Take a step back. And sometimes it's best not to bid. There's other times where I've been at auctions. I remember .com boom auctions. This is 20 years ago in the Bay Area. Guess what everybody wants? A laptop. Well, if that's what everybody wants, you're not going to get one at a good price. What you want to look for is the stuff nobody wants. I remember this one particular .com business that was in bankruptcy, and so everything's being sold. And they had a little kitchenette area. Of course, they had a kitchenette area with a microwave with cabinets, a sink, and everything like that. And this is part of the auction. Well, nobody came there to buy this. It went so cheap, a couple $100, if that much. I bought, anyway, there's all kinds of stuff that it's like, oh, it's the stuff you didn't think about, and that's what someone bought. I was at a completely different, I was at a truck auction. I need to remember my house. I was at a truck auction, this is many, many years ago, semi-trucks and these big rigs and stuff, and there was a car for sale. Well, no one went there to buy a car. Well, this one guy, smart old guy, and he goes, yeah, 300, and he bought this car that was maybe 5 years old for a few $100, and his friend said, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, it was just, that wasn't what the people were there bidding for. Okay, so it's just look for the niches, okay? Now, oh, by the way, government auctions are online now, federal government. I'm actually, okay, never mind. I don't want to get into this too much. My house, 18 years ago, I've been in Evansville about going on 20 years now. Is that right? I think so. Going on 19 years, whatever it was. So I went to an auction one night. So check in your city, not just the thrift stores. Check for estate auctions. You want a nice set of china, a nice cabinet to put them in, or a good gun cabinet, or a good whatever it is for whatever you're doing. Why not go to an estate auction? Have cash if you can, and then bam, and buy it for a third of the price or a quarter of the price. Why not? Want to have nice things, but buy it a lot cheaper. Okay. Anyway, the night I bought my house, there was this man who had all these rental properties. It was over 20 houses, if I recall, 22, 23 houses. He had died. He had willed them all to his girlfriend. And so she, rather than going through a real estate agent for every one of them, because these houses weren't worth that much money, she decides to sell them all at an auction one night. 20 houses for sale. So I went and looked at a few of the houses. They weren't the Taj Mahal, they weren't Hearst Mansion, but they were houses, and I was a renter. I was living in an apartment, and you're paying rent every month. Money gone every month, gone. Okay, so I went there, and there was a particular house no one was bidding on. So auctions, the bidding started at $10,000. Okay, now this is almost 20 years ago. Houses are a lot more expensive now. And bidding started at $10,000, so I bid $10,000, or I bid $10,500. There was only one other person. I never turned around to look to see who was behind me, who was bidding me. You were going up by $500 increments. And so I stopped at like $13,000 because I had never seen this house. Okay, this is the house I'm in, okay? I own it. It's paid for. Don't laugh, it's paid for. Okay, kind of like that bumper sticker you see on old cars sometimes. That's the kind of house I live in. Don't laugh, but it's paid for. I don't have the burden over me that so many people have. Okay, anyway. So I stopped bidding at like $13,000, and the way they did it, they went around and did these things, and there were a lot of people there. And a few of the houses went for a pretty good amount of money because they were worth more, and so that's your premium ones that people are buying, or that they're willing to pay a lot more for. The house I was bidding on, there was only one other person even bidding, and there happened to be the guy who did the air conditioning and heating for the houses, sitting like two persons from it. I asked him, because he only had this little postage stamp size picture, and then you got a description of the square footage and the year it was built and all this other stuff. It's over 100 years old, my house. Anyway, so I asked him, what's different? Why is no one bidding on this house? He says, I don't know. I think they were all about the same. And so, I mean, that's just an impression, but he had been in all the houses because he had done heating, air conditioning. Anyway, So after they'd done all the houses, they go back and you can bid more, because obviously the auction house wants as high a prices as possible, because that's how they make their money, a commission. And so I started going up by $500 increment. I'd never seen this house. Get up to, I bid I think 16,000, and someone behind me bid 16,500. And I stopped and I prayed, Lord, this is probably foolish of me to be even considering buying a house I haven't seen. So I'm praying silently. Lord, I'll bid one more time, and if I don't get it, this is probably this as well. And this was a stretch on my finances, but I could do it. I could swing it. I figured. And the house was worth a lot more than that. If it was being sold, it was probably worth twice as much. Okay, just by the prices of things. But this is an auction. You get good deals at auctions. You often do. Excuse me. If you look, you know the price ahead of time. Anyway. So I bid 17,000. Well, whoever it was who had been bidding against me didn't bid again. And I got the house. The end of the night, I got the house. I had to pay 5% down, which was $850. The balance due in 30 days. And so I actually borrowed money from a couple friends. They very kindly, two different families, loaned me enough money that I could cash out the house, get the title, and then turn around and get a home improvement loan, which only had like a $50 thing rather than having an official mortgage, and then pay my two friends back, because I could finance it for a certain amount, high enough amount to basically paid for it, and it was at a good price. I mean, and so anyway, so I bought a house. I had it paid for in 3 or 4 years. So, okay, so look out there, pray, and look at things. Okay, I need to finish up. I want to recommend 3 things. Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University. He's on the radio in many cities. Look at AM radio stations in your city. He's often on for free on the radio. Let the people call in and they say, oh, Dave, we got this much in debt and we're trying to do this. And Dave Ramsey and his associates, he's based out in Nashville. They've got excellent advice they give people. Get out of debt, pay off your bills, do these things. They got baby steps. Well, he's got a whole system called Financial Peace University. I'm showing you the slides in front of me here and stuff. And it's an excellent program to help. Now, I'm going to give you 2 other people. Each of these people, they're not clones of each other. They'll give you different financial advice. Some persons want you to let debt work for you, and that's a common thing that people will do. Dave Ramsey doesn't believe that, but listen to what he has to say. Invest in yourself with information, and a lot of this stuff is free. You can get it online or on the radio. AM radio has so much good stuff. Let his wisdom on financial matters become part of your life. My car, I won't go into detail. That's one of the ways people lose a lot of money. They want to buy a new car and stuff. I bought my car, it was like 3 years old. I've done that in the last 2 times. It's lasted me the next 10 years. Easy. The highest drop in value is that first 2 or 3 years, and then if you can get a good price for it to start with, and it's still got most of the life left on the car, you are way ahead. You can't always increase your income. You can reduce your outgo. Okay, folks? I know this sounds hard if you're just every month trying to survive. Actually, before I go further, I need to remind you of something here. Don't go to those expensive coffee places and buy the foo-foo coffee, $5 or $7. It was only $4. Okay, if you do that 25 days a month, and you've spent $3 or $4, let's say you spend $4 on a cup of coffee, which people can at these drive-through places, you've now lost $100, right? Why don't you get some instant coffee, heat up some water, and make your coffee at home? Or even, there's a lot cheaper ways to have coffee or tea than to go through one of these drive-through places. Take your lunch to work. Okay, I'm sorry, I have my props here. Take your lunch to work. Go to the thrift store, get a couple of insulated bags. Ignore the logo on the front of this here, but get some sandwich bags. Where did I put my freezer bags? Hey, you're there. And put I mentioned V8 juice rather than soda pop. Get 1 or 2 of these cooler pack things, put it in the freezer, and then make yourself either a couple of sandwiches, or on the weekends make a big pot of stew, crock pot or a stew or something. Put it in freezer bags, and then each day, that's actually a good way if you freeze some stew or something and you put that in your lunch bag to keep everything else cool or cold until lunch, whether you're day shift, evening shift, night shift, or whatever it is. But you can do that. And then these cheap sandwich bags, don't buy the ones that close. You can buy 300 of the ones that fold closed for cheaper than the 100 of the ones that if you don't need it. Okay, I know I'm pinching pennies here, but I mean, this is, you can do this. How much is lunch these days if you go out with the guys every day or go out with the gals? $7, right? $7, $10. I'm sorry, this is, I haven't used this in a while. There's a little bit of lint on it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is, okay. If $7 a day, let's see, $7 times 25, that's $175 a month. You got that kind of money to throw away? Why don't you instead get a loaf of bread, get some lunch meat of some kind, tuna fish or whatever, and make sandwiches, bam, bam, bam. Get some carrots, get a 2-pound bag of a carrot and a pickle spear in a bag, maybe some olives, a few olives. This is giving you a variety of nutrients if you're talking about different vegetables and stuff. Or a salad or a stew or whatever. Don't put soup in here. I recommend you do not put soup in. Soup is going to slosh around. If it gets bumped or knocked over, oh my goodness, you got a mess. But something hearty or a salad inside your thing. Okay, folks, this is not hard to do, and you can easily save. If you had say $3, so let's say you were saving $3 a day from coffee. Instead, you buy one of these travel mugs, and you're saving $3 a day on coffee, and you're saving $5 a day on luncheons. Instead of $7, it's costing you $2 because obviously the ingredients cost some money. You've now saved easily $200 per month, right? That's $7 or $5. That's $8 a day. $3 for coffee, $5 for lunch, cheaper. So that's $8 times 25. 8 times 25 is 200, and that's after tax money. You'd have to make about what, $270 to be able to get to that much income to pay the taxes, and then you got the money to I'll drink this later. Actually, I have some in the fridge. I told you about that. If you're worn out at the end of every day and you're drinking your energy drinks, would you please start taking vitamins? I know I've said that now like 3 times in my things. Your whole system, you're having financial pressure, you're having nutritional. So many of us are malnutritioned. We're eating all this processed food, and I'll tell you what, it's just, we're not getting the nutrients, we're not getting the minerals we need. Your body is rationing, and you're getting some toxins in. Please, my friends. Okay, now, what am I forgetting to tell you? Okay, I mentioned Dave Ramsey. That's one. Next one is Mike Maloney. I really like Mike Maloney, but I'm not rich enough to buy any of his products. Goldandsilver.com. Mike Maloney. He has an excellent series that's free. It's I think it's 8 or 10 part series. I've watched the whole thing. Hidden Secrets of Money. He goes into the history of money, using barter, using money, how money developed through time. Let this become part of you. Learn this. This is an excellent series. It's professionally done. He's released it free online, just like Dave Ramsey's advice. So much of this advice is free. Please watch the Dave Ramsey. I already mentioned him. Mike Maloney. He has some excellent things on the world economy, on the modern bank failures, and you may not agree with his perspective, but you know he's got some great stuff out there. I wasn't going to mention G. Edward Griffin. I did get to talk to him on the phone one time. He's got to be in his 80s, 80s or 90s. He's an older man. Got to speak to him on the phone one time, a long time ago. Anyway, we had a mutual friend. That's how I was connected with him. He called me. Anyway, I'm sorry. The Creature from Jekyll Island, about the Fed, the Federal Reserve and stuff. Anyway, you may agree or disagree. Find out the information. Watch a video. G. Edward Griffin has some excellent videos from 30 or 40 years ago when he was a lot younger in his life. Gee, I didn't know that. I didn't know the banks did this. I didn't know that. Well, find out. Okay, so Dave Ramsey, Mike Maloney. Third person I'm going to recommend. There's lots of other people. these are just ones that I have gleaned a lot from, is Robert Kiyosaki. He's the author of a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He is a big advocate in small business. Small businesses, and rather than using your time to make somebody else rich, why not use it to make yourself financially independent? And that's not always easy to do, but you can start. I talked about the woman who was at the convenience store. That's how I knew her, but she was taking a course to improve herself. Another time I was taking a bookkeeping class just to do a entry level, and there was a woman there, a middle-aged woman, who was going to become a bookkeeper. She had limited money, but she was in where she was at in life. She needed a job where she wasn't gonna. You can't be if you're physically not as strong as you used to be. Being a waiter or waitress gets hard. You see what I'm saying? Well, what's something else you can do? Well, being a bookkeeper is something. Being a barber or a beautician is something. Becoming someone who can give shots to people or whatever, inoculations. Working in a pharmacy, a pharmaceutical assistant. That can be a good job. I don't know. That may be regulators. There's a lot of things in our world that's regulated. But what can you find that's out there? Ask older people what their advice is. Talk to a few union people. I'll tell you what. There's some good guys out there. I was part of a union one time for a brief amount of time. I was a member, and but anyway, there's a lot of good professions you can do out there. Some that have travel, some that have sales. Are you good at sales? There's some things where they're doing technical sales. They have this big equipment, and so you got to have sales ability plus the ability to understand engineering stuff. Find out the niches. Look for that stuff. FAA, air traffic controller. There are so many different niches out there. Aircraft inspector. That you can look on government websites for jobs. I don't remember what it's called. There's anyway, because I'm in my 60s, I get automatically excluded. But and thank the Lord, I was able to take early Social Security. I told you 10 years ago I lost my life savings, what I had of it, to 4 civil lawsuits that destroyed me. I mentioned this in episode 1. I'm a stalker. I haven't said that in a few episodes. In real life, I'm not a stalker, never been a stalker. I have no plans to ever become a stalker. But if you can't afford a lawyer, you go to court, you just lose. It doesn't matter what the evidence is. I'm sorry to be so cynical. You hear these people who say, the person who wins is the one who has the most expensive lawyer. Well, no, I'm one of those guys. We live in the modern world, around the world, and down through time. Matthew 5:25, Jesus said, agree with your adversary while you're on the way with him, lest at any time, I don't remember the exact words, I'll put it in front of me here, at any time he take you before the judge and you lose everything, basically. I'll tell you what, the Roman courts were not fair. The American courts, the Australian courts, there's even a term, kangaroo court. Anyway, you may think, oh, it's because I'm a minority. Well, I'll tell you what, it's unfair for a lot of people. If you don't have much money, then you get sued, someone wants to destroy you just for fun, or they want to, whatever it is, you're often going to lose. Okay, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he also, just like Dave Ramsey, just like Mike Maloney, has free stuff that you can watch. Wow, what a resource. What a blessing. What a resource. I don't agree with everything that Robert Kiyosaki. Listen to his advice. He's a guy who's made it in this world. And he's willing to tell you. He's willing to tell you and me about what he knows. Mike Maloney also, good wisdom. Okay, and he's an advocate of tangible assets. Okay, but anyway, watch his stuff. Okay, now, there's bank failures going on, okay? I need to not let you see the numbers on this here. I'm sorry. I don't actually have a book for this, but I have 2 checking accounts. I have 2. If there is, and then these are not the cards that go exactly with this, but see, those are both blue. Let me get one of these here. Anyway, 2 debit cards, 2 checking accounts, 2 debit cards, and so my direct deposit may go to one of them, but I have a second account. If I lost my wallet or got robbed or a debit card becomes compromised, what am I going to do? Go the next 10 days until I get the next one in the mail, the replacement card? Well, I have a separate checking account. I can move $800 if I have $800 or $500 or whatever to the other checking account, and I'm still in business. I'm still business, right? In business, I'm still able to do stuff, right? Because I have a second checking account already. Keep 100, you should have some kind of a buffer of money anyway. Watch Financial Peace University. Dave Ramsey recommends that an initial emergency have $1,000 available. $1,000 at any one time. I would say at least, even if you don't follow that, have $100 where you could buy a tire, where you could buy whatever. You've got to have some kind of liquidity. You've got to have it available, my friends, please. Okay, so have a second bank account. What if you're a small business? Well, why not the same thing? Right now, banks are failing. You have a payroll. Why not open a second business account and have it kind of in reserve, set it up for direct deposit, print up some checks. If you print checks ahead of time and it's going to take 2 or 3 weeks before the checks get to you, okay, well then you don't have to do it the expensive way. And your main bank, let's say your main bank starts faltering through no fault of yours, and you had no idea. I mean, there's some big banks that have failed. You got the second one, and it didn't cost you that much to set it up for your business, but you could move $50,000 or $100,000 to that bank so that you can make payroll. Do you see what I'm saying? Now people are going to get a different check stub or a different receipt. It's going to be deposited from a different place. Let's see, that's actually not going to work, is it? For direct deposit. Well, giving someone a check is better than nothing. Better than our bank account's been frozen. We can't pay it. Hey, wait a minute. What did you just say? No, open that second. If you got a small business, open that second account and have it. Keep some money in there. Get some checks printed, and if you had to, you could use that account. It's already established. It's already there. Okay. Now, I have also mentioned. Keep my stuff straight here. I have also mentioned get a passport if you can. It's not an emergency. It's going to last for 10 years. Here's the one for the U.S. Here's the passport application. It's a few pages. It takes a couple months. You need some pictures of yourself, passport photos. Costs about $100, $120, $130, something like that. I don't remember how much it costs. $120. It's going up a little bit more each year. But the rules may change on passports. It's got to say on here somewhere. Maybe it's online. How much it is. Fees. Oh, passport fees are established. They're non-refundable. Applicant fee. It doesn't say how much it is. My recollection is like $100, $120. It's a government-issued ID. And it's going to last for 10 years. Rules change. Countries change quickly. In 1930s, in Germany, in 1931, they were a normal society. They had lost in the war, but the Deutschmark, I mean, they had society and stuff. 1932, they elected a crazy man named Adolf Hitler. He then, in 1933, gains more power. By 1935, only 2 years later, it is too late. The Nazis, Nazi is short for National Socialist. The National Socialist, it's from the German, N-A-Z-I, National Social, it's a contraction. Kind of like instead of refrigerator, you say fridge. Or instead of automobile, you say auto. Instead of carriage, horseless carriage, you say car. Okay? Did you know this stuff? Okay, these things get decided over time. Okay, people shorten things. But Germany changed very quickly. You would have wanted to already have your passport, even though if you're German, if you're from that time, or Austrian or whatever. But if you already have it, you're kind of grandfathered in. Your country starts changing, starts going crazy. There were people in the mid-1930s in Germany that realized what was going on and started quietly getting their affairs in order and getting out, if they could. If they could get to France, get to England, go to America, go somewhere else. Once it becomes obvious to everyone, well, then it's too late. I've told you in episode 2 of this, I told you about some of my favorite movies, and one of them is Casablanca. It's a war movie, and one of the main themes of the movie is all these people who are desperate. They're desperate to get out of Europe. Europe is under the control of dictatorships and armies and starvation and ration cards. Well, not starvation, but ration. Well, yeah, starvation too, but ration cards and limited rights. Citizen, let me see your papers. Why are you out at this time at night? Oh, I see you're coming home from your job. I see. I mean, it's just, things can change, folks. Curfews, that's rare in America, but America could change. The Nazis can come to power in America, and there will be hell to pay when that happens. I believe it could happen next year. I'm filming this the summer of 1923, the summer of 1924, after the primaries, and they weed out who will be then be allowed to be in the main elections. It will be only certain people who will be allowed in. I'll talk about that in a subsequent episode. I don't want to go into details here, but America, we have been a beacon of light for the future. We have been that city on the hill in the past. That is coming to an end, I fear. Okay, if you are a person with, even if you have limited wherewithal, I'll tell you a good channel to listen to, separate from the ones I've mentioned already. Nomad Capitalist, a man named Andrew Henderson. This is his book. This is the first edition of the book. He's got a second edition out now. Hey, the pages are coming loose. I need to be more gentle with my books here. One page is coming loose. Nomad Capitalist, Andrew Henderson. He's got some great advice for opening a bank account in another country, for starting a business or buying into a business or investing or buying some real estate, buying an apartment. Now, most of us are not at that level. I'm not at that level. But I've traveled enough that I could get out there. I'll bet I could get a residence visa in a few different countries that I would like to be in if I needed to be somewhere. Whether or not I could support myself or not, that's maybe a different story. But if you got some wherewithal, take a look, get the Lonely Planet travel books, fly to that country. I mentioned, okay, this is just one country among many. I mentioned Namibia. It was a former German colony, okay, many, many years ago. They have a good culture of mix of African and German, in my opinion, German cultures. Go there and see what's going on. Take a look. There's some African countries that they have turbulence and they have dictatorships and stuff. Well, each country is different. Take a look at what's going on. Argentina right now has been, and many times in its history, has been very, very civilized. Right now, as I'm recording this, they're going into hyperinflation. They're in the process, and it is tragic. Here's the civilized country. The history in some ways is similar to America as far as the immigrants who went to there, the Italians, the Germans, the British, and stuff. But it codified differently than the North America. Canada, Latin America is very different from the Anglo-American traditions and stuff. And anyway, so there's different countries. Japan I lived in for 5 years. I've thought about trying to go there or something like that. I like Japanese culture. I'm comfortable in Japanese culture. If I started speaking Japanese again, I know it would come up. Okay, get a passport. Learn about stuff. Maybe diversify your money. Diversify where you have if you're of that class, okay, that you can, or diversify or have it where you could go somewhere and be able to travel or have a vacation hut somewhere. There's some places in the world that are not that expensive. It may be on the other side of the world. I've been in places. Where was I at? It was Thailand. I was the only American there. So I mentioned Chiang Mai, I mentioned Bangkok, Koh Samui, an island in the south. It was just a paradise, white sand beaches. They were all Europeans, I think one or two Israelis. I was the only American there. And were there any Africans? I sometimes see Africans, you don't see as many of them traveling. At least that's my experience. You see a lot of Germans, a lot of Australians out there also and stuff. Anyway, but it was like, to buy a place, a vacation spot, this is at that time, this is 20 years ago, or 25 years ago, whenever it was, on Koh Samui was not that expensive. It was like, wow. I mean, yes, it's just a hut, but fresh food all year round. There are places in India where you could go. I mean, there's some islands that no one's been to, foreigners don't go to, because it's not on the main, get your Lonely Planet guide. Go out there and see how they treat people from your country. If you're German, if you're American, if you're French or whatever. Anyway, okay, I'm getting it too much. I'm sorry. I think I have said enough. Pray. Get your finances in order. We are moving into dark times. The bank failures, I fear, are not over yet. And there are people who are going to lose money. They're going to lose investments. There are going to be investment houses that go crashing down. That happened in 2008. Remember the financial crisis in 2008. It could happen again. The other shoe hasn't dropped, as some people have said. Too big to fail. Well, they're too big to fail. Now the ones that have survived are even bigger. So there's even bigger dangers for what could happen. I mentioned China briefly and stuff. Right now, China, the world's second largest economy. If you're watching the Western news, most of what you're not seeing what's happening in China. Oh my goodness, they're in a very, very dangerous situation. And anyway, I like watching documentaries, watching things from different parts of the world, and trying to understand Russia, trying to understand German history and stuff, and asking. When I was in Germany, I would ask German friends, may I ask you a question, and if you don't want to answer, how did Germans feel about World War II? Why not ask your German friend that? If you have a German friend or an Austrian friend, how did Germans feel about World War II? No, that's a hard question. When I was in Mexico City, did I mention this? Anyway, I was in Mexico City for a few days one time, and kicking around and seeing things. Went to Teotihuacan, went to the Bullfights, stuff like that. And there was an older Mexican man, and his English was pretty good. And I met him at there's this huge square in the middle of Mexico City. And we sat down, and this gentleman was kind enough to talk to me for a little while. And I wanted to ask, I wanted to try to understand Mexicans in Mexico. And I asked him, sir, because I was a lot younger than him, may I ask you a few questions? I want to understand Mexico better. And if you ask politely and you're not being rude, even if your question is kind of, how do Mexicans feel about Americans? And I remember he almost kind of flinched. I'm sorry to say this, but I think they have mixed. Americans can be the big bully, folks. We don't really, if you're an American, you don't realize that. I'll tell you what, America can be a bully in the world. Okay, that being said, how do I asked this man, I remember what he said. Well, we know that Americans work hard. And anyway, he started talking. I asked him about Mexican culture. I asked him about the beggars, because there's people and they got their kids out there with them begging. And rather than the children being in school, and you see that in Romania, you see that in other places also, beggars out there, and the kids who should be in school. Well, if someone will give a child $2 or $5 where they wouldn't give it to the adult, of course their parents pull them out of school, and that's who they have begging. Isn't that tragic? Isn't that tragic? And so if the people are making $3 a day, but they go to Mexico City, stand on a corner, and the little girl comes out with the hat, and she's now expected to get money from the foreigners. Okay, anyway, I need to stop. We live in a strange time in history. You for where you're at. I'll tell you some of the smartest low-budget travelers in the world, and that's Africans. I have connected with some Africans before. Boy, these guys, I think Europeans are good at saving money. The Africans are the best. Oh my goodness, not always legal. Not always legal. They'll buy one bus ticket and use it for the next 4 or 5 days. I'm sorry. Not always legal what they do, but they are experts at saving money and anyway, getting the most nutrition from the cheapest foods and stuff. Okay, so anyway, but there's all kinds of people out there that you can connect with and meet from different cultures, different countries. Get your passport. If you can, travel. If you're 16 or 18 years old, maybe you've got a friend who's also interested in traveling overseas. If you're a young woman, do not travel alone overseas. Please do not do that. If you're a pretty woman, you're worth a lot of money. I'm sorry to be putting it that way, but I am a man who is haunted by people young women, pretty women in Asia or in Europe, and where did she go? She must have returned to her country, a girl from the Philippines or something, I'm saying Asia. She must have gone back to the Philippines. What do you mean she must have gone back to the Philippines? Well, she's gone now. I haven't seen her in a month, and she's gone. What happened? Where did she go? What happened? My friends, human trafficking. Anyway, I need to not think about this. It just weighs on me. What could I have done differently? Well, maybe by making this video and my other videos trying to tell you my life experiences. Okay, I need to finish. Thank you for watching. I hope that this has been edifying, educational, and entertaining. God bless you. Goodbye.